Okay, so today we're going to be doing the rapid fire book tag. I was tagged to do this one by Jessica from Lady Lovestead Reads, so a big shout out and thank you to her. So apparently the deal with the rapid fire book tag is that you're meant to be doing it as quickly as possible, so this should be a lot of fun. Let's get right into it. Prompt number 1, ebook or physical? I definitely would have to go with physical for this one. This is more the fact that I have a barrier with ebooks. I have incredibly sensitive eyes when it comes to light, so therefore I find it a real struggle to read any type of an ebook, so physical book for me. Prompt number 2, paperback or hardback? And my answer for this would differ depending upon the situation. As far as to read from, I would say paperback. As far as to display, because of the durability, I would say a hardback. Prompt number 3, online or in-store book shopping? Well, I honestly do prefer in-store book shopping, but thanks to COVID and the several lockdowns we've had, particularly over here in Australia, we're kind of in lockdown, out of lockdown, in lockdown, out of lockdown, and that's been the case since pretty early on in 2020. It's been really tough to get into a bookstore, so the majority of the books that I have purchased have been done online, but I do prefer to be in the actual store. There's just something about being in a bookstore that's really calming and just nice and serene for me. Prompt number 4, trilogy or series? And this one is not an easy answer for me because it really more depends on the actual story itself. So I would say a trilogy is easier to get through because there's only 3 books. A series may take a longer time, but we might be exposed to a lot more different things that I prefer, like more world building and character building and stuff like that. So it really just comes down to the type of story that it is. Prompt number 5, heroes or villains? And I definitely have to say a resounding result being heroes for me, because generally most of the time I don't like the villains. So yeah, I would go for the heroes. I love Jafar from Aladdin, but aside from that, I'm just not really a fan of villains in books, so I'm all about the heroes. Prompt number 6, a book you really want everyone to read. I've gone for my one non-fiction of the year, which is this book, A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. So this non-fiction book is a book that Marianne Williamson wrote to help everyone to return back to a place of love. It's a really interesting read, and I think that this is a good book for anyone who, whether you do have a lot of love to give and to share for yourself and others or not. If you do, I think you'll just enjoy the book. If you don't, then I think the book can really help you, and what the world needs now. I don't really want a copyright strike, but you know what it is. It's love. Sweet love. Prompt number 7 is to recommend an underrated book. I scoured through my Goodreads to see books that received quite low ratings for all the books that I've read so far this year, and I came up with the 2 lowest ones that I thought were actually pretty good. I gave them both 5 stars. So they are Game Changer by Neil Shusterman and White Sands Volume 1 by Brandon Sanderson. This is a YA sci-fi book that revolves around Ash, who plays college football. He is knocked out, and when he's knocked out, he is knocked into an alternate reality. Ash ends up traversing through multiple different alternate realities, and I just found this to be an absolute blast, so I highly recommend it. Go in just hoping to have a really fun time with Ash. I think if you go in with that mindset, you will enjoy it too. White Sand Volume 1 is a book from Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere timeline. I have all my Cosmeres up here, and I'm a huge Brando Sando fan. This book is an adult fantasy graphic novel. Basically a nice way to say a comic book. I'm not a comic book reader, so I did listen to the audiobook version, and if you're like me, if you struggle with reading comic books / graphic novels, I highly recommend the graphic audio version. Those guys are just absolutely amazing. They did a wonderful job with this book, so I highly recommend both of them. Prompt number 8 is the last book that you finished, and the last book that I finished was this book, The Little Mermaid and Other Fairy Tales by Hans Christian Andersen. I thought that this was a good book. However, it did shock me quite a bit because I went into this book, which is a compendium of fairy tales that Hans Christian Andersen wrote. I think the Danish author is just absolutely wonderful, but I went into this compendium thinking it was going to be some beautiful, sweet, nice, fluffy fairy tales, and yet maybe it's more of a reflection of the time, but these fairy tales are rather shocking. They can be rather dark as well, and there were some other things that went on along the way that just shocked me compared to our modern day fairy tales, which seem a lot more sweet and nice and, you know, kind and come with some beautiful morals, basically. But I do still recommend it. If you love classic fairy tales, then I definitely think you will love this. Prompt number 9 is the last book that you purchased. And so I have 2 answers here. I have an answer for the last book I purchased that I haven't read yet, and the last book that I purchased that I have read. So the last book that I purchased that I haven't read yet is this book, Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. This is a book that I'm going to be reading in next month, in August. I'm buddy reading this classic. The last book that I purchased that I read was this book, His First Family. I listened to this on audiobook and really wanted a physical copy, so I finally managed to track down a copy and purchased it for myself. I recommend this book if you love LGBTIQ+ books. This is book 2 in a series, so you start with His First Christmas First. Victoria Sue did an amazing job. If you're a fan of adult LGBTIQ+ books, I think you'll enjoy this one. And if you want to join me for the buddy read with this one, the link to my Discord is in the description. Prompt number 10 is the weirdest thing you've used as a bookmark, and my answer is going to be rather boring for this because I use bookmarks, so I personally, for myself, consider it a sin to dog ear books. That's just my view. And I haven't really used anything else. I use bookmarks, so boring answer, but there you go. Prompt number 11 is used books, yes or no? And my answer to this is definitely yes. I went through a period in my life where all I was purchasing were used books, and I feel that I could still do that. I think the only thing that's standing in my way is, again, COVID and the lockdowns. Once all of this is sorted out and we're able to freely go wherever the heck we want to go, I think I will go back to purchasing used books. It's a great way to purchase a book risk-free for a cheap price, and then if you love it, you can always upgrade to a nicer edition. But yeah, definitely I think that it is a valuable option to have. Prompt number 12 is your top 3 favourite genres, and I'm going to go with fantasy, thriller, and LGBTIQ+ books. Last year, when I first started my booktube channel, my most read genres were fantasy. It was not a surprise to me. I came into my booktube channel saying it's my favorite genre, so it didn't surprise me at all. This year I've really tried to diversify my reading, but even in trying to diversify my reading, fantasy is still the most of the genres that I've read. I've also come to really appreciate thrillers a lot more this year, so that's why they've made that list. And the LGBTIQ+ genre representation also in books of LGBTIQ+ themes really means a lot to me and really hits close to home, so that's why that one's there as well. And prompt number 13 is borrow or buy, and I would definitely say both with this one. Again, it just comes back to COVID. My library just keeps getting closed. It will then open for a week and then it closes again, so there's just no real way to be able to get to the library these days. It's just not working out. But once COVID is over, I'm sure that will change for me. But yeah, I'm happy to do both, to borrow or to buy. It just depends on the situation. And now for the list of who I tag, I have 4. So I tag Jamie Rindy, Book Fan Reviews, Leo Bancroft, and Storm Reads. I love to see you guys do this rapid fire book tag, so if you do, comment below and leave the link for me so that I can go there and watch it. But what did you guys think, and how would you have answered? Let me know that as well in the comments below. But in the meantime, letting you guys go, peace, blessings, and so much love. I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I'll see you again soon. Mwah! Thank you so much for watching, and happy reading!